It began as nothing more than a whisper, the kind of quiet rumor the palace typically dismisses with a stiff, polite smile. But when one of the most iconic royal photographers of all time, a man who spent nearly 5 decades just steps away from the most powerful family in the world, finally chose to speak, those whispers grew louder. Much louder. Arthur Edwards didn't simply take photographs. He was the public's lens into the royal family. He witnessed Diana holding her sons. He documented every wedding, every funeral, every defining moment of the House of Windsor. So when he revealed that Harry and Meghan's wedding day was the most uncomfortable assignment of his entire career, people knew it wasn't just about tension or a bad atmosphere. It pointed to something deeper, a deliberate, carefully constructed barrier designed to prevent anything real from being seen. For the first time ever, a man once trusted by the king himself was told to keep his distance. And that single instruction to hold back, to keep the camera down, is exactly where the story truly begins. To understand why the moon bump theory has lingered for so long, you first have to grasp the immense weight carried by the British crown. This isn't just about a famous couple expecting a child. In the United Kingdom, succession laws stretch back centuries. The Bill of Rights of 1689 and the Act of Settlement of 1701 make it unmistakably clear. A child must be physically born of the body to claim a place in the line of succession. This isn't symbolic. It's legal. It exists to protect the legitimacy of the monarchy itself. And history shows what happens when that legitimacy is challenged. In 1688, Queen Mary of Modena faced accusations of secretly bringing a false baby into the palace in a warming pan to secure a Catholic heir. The scandal was so explosive it contributed to a revolution. The British public does not forget when it comes to questions of royal lineage. So when Meghan Markle entered the royal stage with a highly visible, modern presence that suddenly shifted into intense secrecy during her pregnancy, echoes of the past began to resurface. The first real crack in the narrative appeared on a cold morning in January 2019. Meghan was visiting Mayhew, an animal welfare organization. Officially, she was believed to be at least 7 or 8 months pregnant. She wore a fitted beige maternity dress, highlighting a pronounced and structured bump. But then something happened that left many viewers stunned. Without hesitation, she dropped into a deep squat, knees together, to pet a dog. Anyone who has experienced late-stage pregnancy knows that movement like that defies basic physical limitations. Balance changes, ligaments loosen, and the size of a third trimester bump makes such a motion extremely difficult without support or a wider stance. Yet Meghan performed it effortlessly, standing back up smoothly, almost like an athlete. And it wasn't just the movement that raised eyebrows. In high-definition footage, the bump itself seemed to shift unnaturally, folding slightly, moving to one side, and some even claim there was a faint popping sound as she rose. The clip didn't just spread online, it became the royal world's equivalent of a Zapruder film, dissected frame by those beginning to question whether what they were seeing was real or something artificial. But that raises the bigger question: why all the secrecy? If everything was normal, why was Arthur Edwards, the longtime trusted witness to royal births, suddenly excluded? Traditionally, when a royal baby is expected, the press is kept informed. There's a sense of openness, of shared history being documented. But with Meghan, everything changed almost instantly. Edwards described feeling scrutinized and controlled in ways he had never experienced during the eras of Diana or Kate. He was no longer treated as a trusted insider, but as a potential liability. This shift became even more apparent in how the birth itself was handled. For generations, there had been the Lindo wing tradition, the moment when the mother steps out, the father beams beside her, and the world gets its first genuine look at the newborn royal. It was transparency in its purest form only. But when Archie was born, confusion replaced tradition. At one stage, the media was informed that Meghan had just gone into labor. Then, within the hour, it was revealed the baby had already been born hours earlier. That unexplained gap, that missing window of time, became the breeding ground for speculation. And then came the digital mystery the palace has never fully addressed. In the early hours of May 6th, the tweet reportedly surfaced from a source closely tied to royal announcements. Brief, formal, and explosive, it claimed that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex had used a surrogate and offered an apology for any confusion. The tweet allegedly disappeared within seconds, but on the internet, seconds are more than enough. Screenshots spread almost instantly. Supporters dismissed it as a hack or an elaborate fake, but the timing was uncanny. It surfaced precisely when official announcements about the birth were already unraveling. To this day, the palace has never directly addressed that particular digital phantom. Instead, they relied on their long-standing approach: never complain, never explain. But in the modern digital age, silence doesn't bury rumors, it fuels them. And the strain wasn't limited to headlines or speculation. It was unfolding behind the closed doors of Frogmore Cottage. Paul Page, a former officer within the Royalty Protection Command, is among the few who have spoken publicly about the atmosphere during that period. He described a household under intense pressure where staff felt constantly on edge, as if they were walking on eggshells. More intriguingly, he hinted at restricted areas, sections of the home that were completely off limits, and a level of internal separation that was unheard of within royal residences. Typically, staff and security develop close familiarity with the royals, seeing them in their most unfiltered state. During the pregnancy, access appeared to be limited to a very small, carefully selected group. Page's remarks about tensions and complaints regarding staff treatment were only the surface layer. The deeper question remained: what exactly was being hidden or avoided that required such strict control? Then there was the unusual situation surrounding the medical team. Traditionally, when a royal baby is born, the doctors involved are publicly acknowledged and even celebrated. They are among the most respected figures in their field. And in this case, the medical professionals connected to Meghan's birth seemed to disappear from public view almost immediately afterward. One doctor reportedly linked to the Santa Barbara delivery closed her practice and retreated into a far more private life soon after. Journalists attempted to confirm details with Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital. They encountered layers of privacy restrictions that felt unusually strict, almost like a legal wall. This stood in stark contrast to previous royal births where doctors openly participated in announcements, sometimes even appearing on hospital steps or giving approved interviews. The Sussex births felt different. No traditional signatures displayed at Buckingham Palace, no visible medical witnesses, and a timeline that seemed to shift depending on the source. If you really want to understand how the royal family signals its position, you don't study their statements. You observe their symbolism. Queen Elizabeth II was known for communicating through subtle but deliberate gestures, and her 2019 Christmas broadcast may have been one of her clearest messages. Der Fragility. Each year, she positioned photographs of key family members on her desk, quietly outlining the monarchy's future. In 2018, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were prominently included. But in 2019, following Archie's controversial arrival and the widening distance within the family, their photo was noticeably absent. Instead, the focus shifted to King Charles III, Prince William, and Prince George. The empty space where Harry and Meghan had once been spoke volumes. It wasn't just omission. It felt like a silent removal from the central narrative. To those familiar with royal signaling, it suggested a deeper shift, possibly even concern over the situation's legitimacy. As we move into 2026, the narrative appears to be evolving once again. what some describe as a victim arc has emerged. A wave of stories framing the Sussexes as targets of a powerful institutional machine. Yet, even within these narratives, one detail remains tightly guarded: the specifics of the pregnancies. That raises a critical question. Why? If the rumors held no truth, a transparent medical disclosure or a more open approach to the births could have ended speculation almost instantly. Instead, significant resources have reportedly been directed toward managing and controlling the conversation. Uh, the battle with the British press has gone beyond privacy. It has become about narrative control. But as Arthur Edwards understands better than most, the lens can only be managed for so long. The so-called moon bump theory has grown beyond the idea of a proper prosthetic. It represents a deeper erosion of trust between the monarchy and the public. When long-standing traditions of openness are replaced with tightly managed messaging, people begin searching for inconsistencies. They notice the shifting shape of the bump during appearances in Birkenhead. They recall the faint popping sound picked up during a walkabout. They observe differences in tone between the bump and Meghan's face under certain lighting conditions. On their own, each detail may seem minor, but together they form a pattern that fuels doubt, one that even the most sophisticated purse strategies struggle to suppress. And then there are the children themselves. Archie Harrison, Mountbatten Windsor, and Lilibet Diana, Mountbatten Windsor, have been kept almost entirely out of the public eye. While Catherine Middleton and Prince William regularly share natural, candid images of their children, allowing the public to watch them grow, the Sussex children appear only in heavily edited, stylized, or distant images. Within the royal narrative, they exist almost like shadows. This level of privacy is virtually unheard of for individuals who stand sixth and seventh in line to the throne. If they truly are biological heirs born of the body, then why keep them hidden as though they're part of some witness protection program? The stark contrast between a traditionally open monarchy and the intensely private Sussex approach has created a void. And in that void, even the most extreme theories have found room to grow. Arthur Edwards once remarked that Prince Harry had been one of the most enjoyable royals to work with before Meghan Markle entered his life, describing him as warm, humorous, and genuinely connected to the public. But after the wedding, he said, that version of Harry seemed to disappear, replaced by someone far more withdrawn and difficult. Many have pointed to this shift as the root of media attention, but Edwards suggests it went beyond personality. It was a transformation in purpose. The focus appeared to move away from serving the crown and toward crafting a carefully controlled, marketable image of it. And within that curated version, the raw, unfiltered reality of a royal birth was swapped out for a polished narrative, one that left no room for the scrutiny once provided by seasoned royal photographers. As legal disputes continue and new leaks in 2026 hint at deeper institutional changes behind palace walls, speculation is only intensifying. There are whispers of a confidential dossier held by senior officials, one that allegedly outlines the true timeline of the Sussex pregnancies. Some believe the issue of surrogacy is the palace's ultimate leverage, something being held back unless tensions escalate further. If the Sussexes continue to push their narrative, critics suggest the monarchy could respond by exposing the truth about the aborn of the body requirement. Such a revelation wouldn't just be scandalous. It could trigger the most significant constitutional crisis since the abdication of Edward VIII. The consequences could be enormous, potentially affecting titles, succession rights, and even Prince Harry's place in the royal line. But to understand why this silence carries so much weight, you have to look at a centuries-old tradition that was quietly abandoned, a tradition specifically designed to prevent exactly these kinds of doubts. For generations, the birth of a royal heir wasn't treated as a private family event. It was a matter of state. A senior government official, often the Home Secretary, was required to be present, or at least nearby, to officially witness the birth and confirm that the child was indeed born of the royal mother. By modern standards, it sounds intrusive, even outdated, but it served as the ultimate safeguard for the integrity of succession. When Queen Elizabeth II gave birth to her children, the protocol was followed. The same system was in place when Princess Diana delivered Prince William and Prince Harry. But when it came to the Sussex births, that long-standing rule was set aside in favor of modern privacy. For legal analysts and constitutional experts, that decision raised serious concerns. By removing the official witness, the process lost its only independent verification. And what remained was essentially a trust system within an institution where trust has historically been built through transparency. Critics argue that if there is nothing unusual, why abandon a safeguard that had protected the monarchy for centuries? In choosing a private, unverified birth, the Sussexes may have unintentionally turned a personal milestone into a constitutional uncertainty. And that uncertainty is exactly what Arthur Edwards and others have been grappling with ever since, questioning why established protocols were suddenly rewritten for a single couple. This absence of official witnessing brings attention back to the visual anomalies, particularly a moment in Birkenhead that continues to fuel debate. Meghan appeared in a striking red coat paired with a purple dress, a bold combination that made every movement highly visible. As she walked and interacted with the crowd, slow-motion footage revealed something unusual. The bump didn't appear to move in natural alignment with her stride. In certain frames, as she turned toward well-wishers, the fabric seemed to shift independently as though the shape beneath it wasn't fully synchronized with her body. It didn't resemble the subtle movement of a baby. It looked more like a steady, mechanical sway, almost as if a weighted form had lost its balance. When combined with the distinct popping sounds captured during similar public appearances, the image becomes even more puzzling. High-end microphones used by media crews are designed to detect the smallest details, including fabric movement. In multiple clips, as Meghan adjusts her posture or clothing, a sharp clicking or popping noise can be heard. To most viewers, it's insignificant. But to those who have analyzed the footage extensively, it raises questions. The sound resembles what some claim could come from a shifting synthetic material, something not typically associated with a natural pregnancy. It's a subtle detail, but one that has kept speculation alive. Then there's the issue of the medical professionals, the individuals expected to provide clarity. Dr. Penelope Law and the team at the Portland Hospital were publicly linked to Archie's birth. In elite medical circles, being part of a royal delivery is a defining career moment, an achievement that usually brings recognition and prestige. Yet, in this case, the aftermath seemed unusually quiet. One key figure reportedly shifted direction entirely, stepping away from the high-profile field that had once defined their career. When questions arise about the exact details of that day, the responses from those involved feel carefully rehearsed. So controlled and legally polished that they sound less like medical accounts and more like lines lifted from a non-disclosure agreement. And that brings us to where things stand now. The 2026 victim ARCA wave. A fresh stream of narratives is emerging, positioned as a defense of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Yet, interestingly, these accounts steer completely clear of the actual birth details. Instead, the focus shifts toward claims that the palace failed to shield them from speculation without ever offering concrete evidence to directly refute it. It's a redirection strategy. By centering the conversation on the experience of being targeted by rumors, the substance of those rumors is left untouched. But the public isn't easily distracted. People are noticing the structural changes within the palace and the way legal strategies in 2026 appear carefully designed to avoid any courtroom discovery process. Even Arthur Edwards, in recent off the record remarks, has hinted that the atmosphere inside royal circles has shifted. There's a growing sense of anticipation, as if something inevitable is approaching. In the past, he noted, photographers were often blamed for creating tension. But now, even those within palace walls are revisiting the past with a different perspective. They're examining the missing doctors, the abandoned home secretary tradition, and the unusual physical details from appearances like Birkenhead, and many are arriving at the same conclusion being debated publicly. The narrative presented doesn't fully align with what was observed. So here we are in 2026, looking back on nearly a decade of unanswered questions. And the issue is no longer just whether a moon bump existed. The real question is why the truth, whatever it may be, required such an extraordinary level of control that even long-standing state protocols were set aside. If it had been a straightforward, joyful pregnancy, there would have been no reason to keep Arthur Edwards at a distance, no need for mysterious deleted posts, and certainly no reason for the near total silence from the medical professionals involved. The monarchy itself rests on a simple principle that succession is rooted in biological reality. Disturb that foundation, and it's no longer just about personal privacy. It begins to challenge the very structure the institution stands on. And whatever the truth may be, time has a way of bringing it forward. With each new leak and every experienced insider who decides to speak, that wall of silence grows thinner. Arthur Edwards has spent over 4 decades waiting for the right moment to capture history. He's known for his patience, and if he says he was told to look away, it raises the question of what he might eventually reveal about what he saw when he chose not to. So, what do you think happens next? Will the truth surface through a long-hidden photograph or through testimony that finally shakes the institution? One thing seems certain in the world of royalty: secrets rarely stay buried forever.